John, Anik, and Kenny-Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny-Florian.
I f***ing love him. I can't get enough of him.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole.
They're a couple of absolutely self-involved bull artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny-Florian.
Headshot, bang. Oh, done.
Well, if you're audio only today, you're missing me in the playroom as I try to find the most optimal place in my home. Great to be back in your life. Monday, April 24, 2023. It is episode 405 of the Anik and Florian podcast, starring three-time UFC title challenger Kenny Florian. Every 150 shows, I try to open it that way. Happy birthday, Michael Chandler. Happy birthday to my wife, Chrissy Anik. And happy birthday to me from Toyo Tires, Ken-Flo, by the way. The SQ5 is getting fitted for Toyo Tires. Ooh. They have arrived in Boca Raton, Florida. So thanks to Stan the Man, Stan Chen from Toyo Tires. Very excited to get some new rubber on the SQ5 tomorrow morning, Ken-Flo.
Hell yeah. Dude, the SQ5 is sweet. Is that what you're rolling around in these days?
That is my wife's car. I drive a minivan. Okay. Do we have to go over this again?
That's right. You do the minivan. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
And after our show a couple of weeks ago, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with the BMW X7 and thought I might end up in one of those. And as it stands, I'm going to end up getting my third Honda Odyssey minivan. I'm getting a third minivan. But my wife has the SQ5. And when I did the commercial for Toyo Tires, they said we'd be happy to put Toyo Tires on the minivan when you need them, or the SQ5. Seemed like the SQ5 was the better fit. So we're very excited about that. And coincidentally, we're rocking the Toyo Tires t-shirt today. But we are trying to optimize this whole studio situation. I am on a Mac desktop today, if you really want to know, in the playroom, seeing how to navigate this. Wi-Fi expert comes tomorrow. We are located a studio space about 3 miles from my front door. It stands to reason that within the next 6 months, we're going to have an Anik Florian podcast studio live in South Florida. We've reached out to Ted Munoz, going to get some mosaic art behind us. Very exciting things. I have spent essentially all of my recreational time, Kenny, over the last 2 weeks focused on the Anik and Florian podcast. So we're ready to go.
Dude, that's exciting times, and I appreciate all the time and effort you've been putting into that, man. That's exciting.
Well, I mean, we got a lot of problems, we're trying to solve them. I'm a solution-oriented guy. I also know that the UFC is going to Charlotte, North Carolina on May 13th. So I feel like I'm going to see you in a couple weeks. Maybe that's why I have an extra pep in my step today.
There we go. Let's do it.
So are you planning on attending? Be honest. I know I'm putting you on the spot. Are you planning on attending UFC Fight Night May 13th in Charlotte, North Carolina? Main event, Jailton Almeida, Jairzinho Rozenstruik in the UFC's heavyweight division.
I would like to. I would like to. I think that works out timing-wise, man. And I just need some tickets maybe from a friend.
Oh, I'll do tickets. I mean, I take care of the ticket. I'm going to see if we can show you on camera. We'll see if we can show the
that's probably not happening.
Kenny Florian Octagon side with us tonight. He moonlights as a PFL commentator. All right, a lot to get to. It was a busy weekend in combat sports. Time permitting, we'll get into the boxing stuff with Ray Longo, but a lot of MMA stuff off the top. Also want to try to give Patchy Mix some shine after a knockout of the year contender over Rafion Stotts to win $1 million. But we begin with Sergei Pavlovich. And sometimes Ken-Flo's got to bring me back to earth a little bit after a performance like this when I'm anointing this guy. Sergei Pavlovich over Curtis Blades by TKO at 3:08 of round one in your heavyweight main event. And Sergei Pavlovich is doing some very, very big things in the UFC. He extends his own modern UFC record for consecutive first-round finishes to 6. Also has earned a knockdown in 6 consecutive fights. And all indications are, Ken-Flo, that his next fight could just be for the UFC heavyweight title. Your thoughts on the budding contender, Sergei Pavlovich, over the weekend?
It's extremely impressive given what he's been doing and the fact that he's been doing it so quickly as of late in the UFC. He clearly has a type of speed and power that is unusual in the heavyweight division. And I also think he demonstrated his chin here in this fight against Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades was landing that right hand. So I guess on the positive side of things, that dude's got a chin. He was eating some big right hands. But on the negative side of things, it showed, hey, this guy is human. He can eat shots. Sometimes positionally, he's not in the best spot. But He is a destroyer. He walks forward regardless, always stoic no matter what, on the walkout, during the fight. If he eats a right hand, doesn't matter. This Russian dude continues to march forward and pursues that knockout until the very end. And he did it against a guy in Curtis Blades, who's a fantastic fighter, obviously. And I guess we'll get into Blades a little bit later. But yeah, Pavlovich just put himself in a great spot to potentially fight for the belt in the very near future. So talk about maximizing that opportunity, man. I was really impressed with his toughness and, of course, with his power and speed as always.
So you pick Sergei Pavlovich plus 145. As far as Curtis Blades' approach is concerned, was it a case of Curtis maybe thinking that he could use that offensive nature against Pavlovich? Because I know that Curtis has a lot of confidence in his own hands. I think he might have the biggest actual physical hands in the UFC's heavyweight division. And I think maybe he got a little bit overconfident in this realm because he was touching Pavlovich, and it seemed like he kind of felt, at least to me, like he was going to get the upper hand of this kickboxing exchange.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. When you look at the fact that he was hitting that right hand against Pavlovich repeatedly, he had success with his striking. However, you also have to know where you have the advantage. And I think I see this across the board with a lot of mixed martial artists. It becomes this battle of ego, or just because you have good hands or just because you have an edge in a certain area doesn't mean that that should be your approach. You know, let's say I have an edge of just a little bit on the striking, but I have this big advantage on the ground. Why wouldn't I take it there? This was a pivotal fight for Curtis Blades and for Pavlovich. The winner, basically ascends to the top of the division and potentially gets a title shot. There was a lot at stake here. You can't afford to go out there and screw this up. And I think for Curtis Blades, he should have taken the path of least resistance, which is to put Pavlovich on his back. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy for him necessarily, but that's certainly where I think everybody would agree that he would have the big advantage. He gets on top of Pavlovich, he's going to tire him out. Pavlovich is going to have to carry his weight, so he's going to get tired. And of course, you take away his knockout ability. Whereas on the feet, if you're trading punches with him, you're kind of throwing dice there. So I don't know if it was the best or smartest approach from Curtis Blades there. Was he landing shots? Absolutely. Was he hurting Pavlovich? I would say yes as well. Could he have taken him down and won the fight in a much easier fashion? Yes, he could have.
So when Sergei Pavlovich was training at the American Kickboxing Academy back in the day, and I'm peeling back the curtain a little bit based upon a conversation I had with Daniel Cormier, but he was not this world beater as a wrestler nor grappler, obviously, and felt like there was a huge gap there that he needed to close. And there's no doubt now, 6, 7, however many years later, I believe he's an American Top Team, he has closed part of that gap. But to your point, Blades would appear to have a decided edge on the ground. If you're Curtis's coach, are you not letting this fight marinate at all on the feet, right? Because ultimately the striking can open up the wrestling, right? Are you just forcing the issue with takedowns right out of the chute if you're Cody Donovan and the guys in Curtis Blades' corner?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would be pursuing that a lot more. It seemed like Blades had no intention of taking him down early. It was kind of like this plan A of I'm going to strike with him and see what happens. And then if that's not working out, I will go to my takedown game. And the problem with that is you may not have that opportunity. Why would you wait to get hurt or get busted up on the feet and then go, oh yeah, let me go take him down? I saw this. I've seen this, across the board in many different organizations with many different fighters, whether they have a wrestling background or a jiu-jitsu background, they go, I'm going to show everybody how good my striking is. If the striking doesn't work out, then I'm going to go to take them down. And then their lead leg is compromised off of calf kicks, or, they ate a body shot, or they took so much damage to the head that they don't know what's up, that they can't even employ that game plan. So it's just not a great strategy. And mixed martial arts involves so many different things. It involves, skills, physical ability, but it includes intelligence as well. And you have to have that right mix of everything, having the tactics, having the skills, having the physicality, having that timing and conditioning to do what you want to do, and having that smart approach. In mixed martial arts, it's such high stakes, both in, the damage that you can take and what can lead, organizationally to your next fight in the promotion. So it was unfortunate to see that, because Curtis Blaydes has been knocking on that door and has been so close so many times that here he is falling victim to that again. And he seems like such a great guy and has so much ability.
No, you put that well. And speaking of the damage, it doesn't go away. So even though Blaydes doesn't appear to be in any great rush to fight for the title, he knows there's a little bit of a logjam in terms of the calendar for Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic. But yes, this was a missed opportunity. I'll talk about championship setbacks all day. But for Curtis, I do believe that you start to accumulate a few too many heavyweight knockouts, and then even if you're a young man, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have this elongated career. So it's too bad for the American Curtis Blaydes, but let us celebrate Sergei Pavlovich. I mean, I said that off the top, you kind of have to talk me back a little bit. And obviously you share most of my enthusiasm for Sergei Pavlovich, but in our Anik and Florian podcast text chain, I guess I said something about a matchup between him and a 41-year-old Stipe Miocic. And I think that would be a real challenge for Stipe, going against somebody as fast and powerful as Sergei Pavlovich at this stage of his career. Francis Ngannou Pavlovich is not necessarily, but I think there are parts of him that are a little bit scarier. I think he might be even faster with his hand speed. So how would you handicap a fight between Sergei Pavlovich and Stipe, and Sergei Pavlovich and Jon Jones? Because obviously when it comes to the grappling, Sergei Pavlovich is a little bit untested, at least in terms of what we've seen in the octagon.
Yeah, I would say Pavlovich would be the underdog against Stipe, maybe plus 150, somewhere in that range, perhaps. Yeah. Miocic, of course, not only is a great striker, but also has the ability to put you on your back and keep you there. Against Jon Jones, I think there would be even a bigger disparity there as far as odds. I would say probably plus 250, maybe in the plus 300 range even, just based on the fact that Jon Jones also has that long reach, has so many different weapons on the feet as far as striking. Tactically is one of the most sound and smartest fighters in UFC history. And then, of course, we know about his takedown ability and submission skills and control. So I don't know. Does that sound about right to you, you think?
It sounds absolutely perfect. Did you lift weights this morning? You look like you lifted weights this morning.
I did. It's probably just because I'm, eating bad food.
You look good. No, you look good. So here's what Matt the Immortal Brown had to say. And if you think he's a qualified source, you would be accurate, because he is one knockout away from being the most decorated knockout artist in UFC history. He wrote, "I'm calling it, Sergei beats Jon Jones." And I'm just saying, it's hard for me, right, to not get super excited about Sergei Pavlovich here on a Monday morning. So Matt Brown believes that Sergei Pavlovich is going to be the UFC heavyweight champion. Certainly it's not out of the realm of possibility. He is much closer to his fighting prime than guys like Stipe and Jon Jones. Not to say that Jon Jones, and I guess not to say that Jon couldn't have some extended heavyweight prime, but do you believe it's a championship ceiling for Sergei Pavlovich based upon what you've seen over the last 6 or 7 fights?
Anytime you get a guy with that kind of physical ability and that kind of striking power and speed, if he catches you, he takes you out. It's like Francis Ngannou, right? I think that, I don't know if he has the overall athleticism of a Francis Ngannou or strength, but as far as speed and power, I think he's right there with him. And there was one point where he hurt Curtis Blaydes with a jab. So anytime you get a guy like that in the heavyweight division, that if he touches you, you are not the same after, they have the ability to be a world champion. No question about it. So I think with that just singular approach, with that singular strength, there's a lot of guys that he can knock out and take out. And that includes every single person out there in the heavyweight division, including Jon Jones. He catches him, he puts him out.
Now, when Derek Brunson fought Robert Whittaker back in the day, some suggested Brunson was sort of on a suicide mission. Just balls to the wall. I'm going to finish this guy or I'm going to end up getting finished. I'm not at all saying that Curtis Blaydes was on a suicide mission, but I do believe that he was focused on aggression and focused on striking and believed without a shadow of a doubt that he'd be the guy we'd be talking about on Monday morning, that he was going to knock out Sergei Pavlovich. And I guess I admire part of that. I do think in some respect it is a case of falling in love with his hands, but promotionally, Sergei Pavlovich is the guy who's not nearly as UFC tested or as accomplished as Curtis Blades. He's the one, though, who's backing up for the title fight. He's the guy stylistically that fans are talking about. And Curtis Blades, I think, fancies himself a knockout artist a little bit. And I guess I'm okay in some part with the approach, sort of die trying. And he died trying.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's always this delicate balance of ego, knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. And we don't always get it right. Shit knows I've gotten it wrong many, many times before. But, sometimes you just don't know until you get out there. You think you're at a certain level. I mean, how many of my fights, several fights early on in my career where I thought, hey, you know what? I don't need any help with my wrestling. None of my training partners could take me down. And if they do take me down, I submit them immediately. I'm doing great in training. There's no indication that's telling me I need more wrestling until you go against a great wrestler and you go, oh, yeah, my wrestling isn't very good. It kind of sucks. So then you go, okay, I need to step it up again. So sometimes you don't know until you get out there. And maybe that was the case with Curtis Blades. And then again, it's not like Curtis Blades wasn't doing well in that fight against Pavlovich. He was doing great. But was there a better approach to that fight? Yes, there was. So this was a tough lesson, man. And this is one that all of us as mixed martial artists find out over time. And it's a tough lesson.
And a key part of my point that I didn't make was the fact that, yes, Curtis Blades was realizing success on the feet and maybe more than he thought a little bit and got a little bit overconfident. But congrats to Sergei Pavlovich. And I do believe his next fight is going to be for the title. And as I wrote to you guys privately, I do think John Jones remains a wild card. Stipe has been in this scheduling cycle where he's only fighting once a year or not even competing in a year, right? His whole trilogy with DC took place over 3 years and he didn't fight anybody else. Daniel fought Derek Lewis, if you recall, in the middle of that whole series with Stipe. So I think that the most reliable guy right now in this whole heavyweight equation is Sergei Pavlovich. I wouldn't at all be surprised to see September that this is the guy, or maybe November. I guess there's some talk about Madison Square Garden, but if either one of those guys isn't ready or there's any sort of appreciable delay, I think Sergei Pavlovich could be fighting for the heavyweight title next.
So much of it is, can the UFC put together a hype package, a highlight package for you to promote this big fight? And man, you look at his last several fights,
God.
It's all a highlight, really. He's got so many knockouts that you could really hype this guy up because he's a scary individual who's proving it time and time again.
I'm trying to be professional today, but what I really want to do is come on here and be the fan and be like, dude, Sergei Pavlovich is a fucking beast. I mean, I'm telling you, man. Like, I'm telling you.
He's scary, man.
I'm watching the fight on mute, putting my son to bed in a hotel room, and had adjoining rooms because we went away for my daughter's birthday, and I could not. Does this guy have a nickname, Sergei Pavlovich? Does this guy have a nickname, Cody? I don't think he has a nickname. I know Sergei Spivak is the polar bear. Don't confuse him with Sergei Pavlovich, because I think polar bear would be a good nickname for Pavlovich. Yeah, I do too. Cody, it sounded like maybe you were going to chime in, but I guess not. No nickname for Sergei Pavlovich. All right, I do want to get to a few other things on UFC Fight Night, but I also want to talk to you about some news that has broken since our last episode. Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad, UFC 288 co-main event. I think you kind of willed this into existence. Here's the quote from Gilbert Burns to MMA Fighting. No way I was waiting if it was July, if these guys, Colby Covington and Leon Edwards, were fighting in July. But October, no way. I'm going to fight my way in, like I said at the beginning of the year after my fight in Rio. I'm not asking, I'm not complaining, I'm not begging. Please give me a title shot. No, I want to earn it. I want to earn it by hard work. I'm going to outwork all these guys. And then he referenced Kamaru Usman sort of lapping the division, saying he's lapping everybody. Now it's my turn. I'm lapping everybody, the whole welterweight division, the whole UFC, and I'm planning on keep doing that. So it seemed like there were some negotiations as to whether or not this fight would be 3 rounds. Would it be 5 rounds? Would it be at a catch weight of 175 pounds? Ramadan is now over, which perhaps is neither here nor there. I think the bigger picture for Bilal Muhammad, he was doing some appearances, some charity work. He was not embedded in training camp, training 3 times a day. necessarily. Gilbert Burns is coming off a pretty grueling training camp. The fight wasn't necessarily all that grueling, but this is a title eliminator. It is 5 rounds. It is your co-main event, and it is happening in about 2 weeks, May 6th, Newark, New Jersey. Your thoughts on all of that noise, Ken-Flo?
This is the fight. This is the right move for the UFC. And time will tell whether this is the right move for either Gilbert Burns or Belal Muhammad. There's so many instances where you give up certain things, right, as a fighter. You know, do you need an extra month for a camp? Is the other guy coming off of a fight? Was it a grueling fight? Did he get beat up? Did he not? Is he coming off fresh? Does he have any injuries? All these things you need to weigh in as a fighter and look for those little advantages or opportunities as well, because these are things that can pay off big time. And both of these guys, I think, have so much on the line, and there's so many different factors that we could point to as analysts and fans of the sport after this fight and go, Belal shouldn't have taken it, or this was a smart choice by Belal to take advantage of this. Maybe Gilbert Burns was overtraining. He was coming off a lot of consecutive. So I don't know which way this is going to go. There's so much at stake, both because these guys are so evenly matched and they are so skilled and so smart, but also because of all the things that are kind of happening on the periphery with, coming off of fights or not, or Ramadan. And so I am absolutely fascinated by this one. This is a big one. And talk about opportunities. After this, how do you deny these guys an opportunity to fight for the belt after this one? This is a thing of beauty. Very interesting.
Well, and Belal Muhammad's acceptance is rooted in just that. If he was going to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov, there wasn't going to be anything resembling a guarantee that was going to produce a championship opportunity, even if he is the first man to defeat a guy who's 17-0 with 17 finishes. But you beat Gilbert Burns and you lay the foundation with 5 rounds. This is a championship title eliminator any way you look at it. Were Belal Muhammad to win this fight as a betting underdog, by the way, I think he's plus 135 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Were he to win this fight, he could idle for a year if he had to. He would have laid the foundation with this 4+ year unbeaten streak, punctuated by a win over former world title challenger Gilbert Durinho Burns. He'd get a title fight. Now, Burns is a throwback, and I know you love Gilbert Durinho Burns. We all do, right? Just wanting to be in this active cycle to just clear out the whole division and make himself so undeniable as a number 1 contender. You got to think Leon Edwards loves the fact that this fight is happening, because in a meritocracy, it's really going to elevate the winner. So I don't know. It's very exciting to think that this fight, once they get through the weigh-in, is just 2 short weeks away from happening.
No question about it. And for Gilbert Burns, I can associate with that. I know when I lost against BJ Penn in my second title shot at 155 pounds, I knew I had to go and prove myself. Even before that, after I lost to Sean Shirk, I needed to go out there and prove myself as that number 1 contender. And, I think Gilbert Burns has been a man on a mission and has been looking phenomenal because of it. But you can absolutely see that he wants to go out there and prove to himself and to everybody that he is the dude. But he has quite the challenge, quite the hurdle, and Belal Muhammad, who has been doing very much the same thing.
Belal Muhammad looking at this as his Michael Bisping-like opportunity to accept a major fight on short notice and effectively change the entire complexion of his career. Fascinating to see how it plays out. Don't forget, you can catch Belal Muhammad's Remember the Show podcast on our Anik and Florian podcast YouTube channel every Thursday night, co-hosted by my twin brother, Jason Anik. All right, lots still to get to over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. Let us get to the Ray Longo Minute.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute. Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
There they are.
Hey.
Come on now.
I mean, come on, Ray, huh?
Joe, where are you? In your kid's room? I can't see over there.
So as I try to get to the bottom of my internet issues, we are in the playroom today working off of a Macintosh desktop computer, and so far so good.
So all I got to say to that then is gaga goo goo.
Well, if you really want to know, I'm trying to get a studio space down here in South Florida.
That's what I'm talking about, John. Big time, baby. Big time.
Hey, DraftKings, if you're listening, maybe we can collaborate a little bit because we're burning a lot of paper trying to get into this building. All right, a lot to get to. How was your weekend, Ray? Okay?
Very good. Very busy.
So you did not go to Hawaii with James Gonzalez, though?
No, I did not. Steve Lee went. I thought it was a great fight by James Gonzalez. Great fight by both guys. Pico seems like a great kid. He's got obviously he's doing great. But Gonzalez jumped in that fight last minute and, he fought his ass off. You know what I mean? I enjoyed the fight and I'm glad, Pico got the fight also because I know when you train hard, you want to just get in there and show what you got. But I thought it was a great hats off to James Gonzalez, man, tough as nails, and hats off to Aaron Pico for taking that fight. He's not an easy guy to fight on a week's notice, and Pico did a great job, really good job.
Jiu-Jitsu James Gonzalez, the Sarah BJJ black belt, is that right?
Yep, really good.
The alley cat.
Yeah, he's just he's tough, man. He's he's like the lower version, like the minor league version right now. And I don't mean minor leagues in that way, but like Bilal and Gilbert Burns. He's willing to fight anybody, any place, anytime, just to get in there and, prove himself. And unfortunately, like what you guys were saying about Bilal and Gilbert Burns, which I agree 100%. You got to love the guys that'll fight just to prove themselves. But, a lot of times they have to fight themselves in a disadvantaged position. And that's what I don't like about it. You know what I mean? So I guess even with Bilal coming off of Ramadan and Gilbert Burns just having to make the weight again, he just fought a couple of weeks ago, whenever that was. But these are two guys that's what I think the sport needs, is guys like this that are willing to step up and say, this is why I deserve to be the number one challenger. So hats off to those guys. It's just a
really tricky thing, though, right? Yeah. Because LeBron James never has to deal with a circumstance like this. And Kenny, at the highest levels of the sport, oftentimes we see opportunities like this, right? Short notice opportunities in the biggest fights of your life. And I do think that the way you're wired, Kenny, right? It's like title eliminators on 2 weeks, right? It's like this is the biggest fight of Bilal Muhammad's life. You can argue second biggest for Gilbert Burns or maybe third, but it's just weird, right? But sometimes you just got to take the bull by the horns, and that's exactly what Bilal's doing. But it's just weird to have a sporting event, I guess, is what I'm saying, of this magnitude, have this type of preamble. That's all.
Yeah. There you go, Kenny.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think this is the kind of risk that you have to take as a fighter, because these are opportunities that may not come around again. So it's a tough one to make, for your management, for yourself and your team. But I think this is the right choice, especially given the fact that, Bilal and all of his experience, the guys that he's faced, I think he sees this as a winnable fight. Not an easy fight, but a winnable fight. And if he does that, he puts himself in a fantastic position.
And if you put Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad at UFC 290 or 291, right, it stands to reason one guy gets injured, the fight never materializes, right? So hopefully we get to fight night with these two, and just a fascinating development when it comes to the UFC's welterweight division. I wanted to ask you, Ray, did you see Patchy Mix with that huge knockout with that knee? Oh,
Damn, that was impressive. Patchy Mix is on fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and he's huge. He's a huge, Aljo's a huge 35, but this guy, he's huge. So, I don't know who's stopping that guy. He's got who's he fight next? He's got, is it Sergio Pettis?
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know all that noise, Ray. I mean, how deep a dive you expected me to go on Bellator this weekend?
Ray, when did he knock him out, and how was the fight going prior to that? Was it even, or was Patchy Mix kind of running away with it prior to that fight?
I'm going to say it was within the first minute.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. First minute of the fight, it happened.
Threw a jab, a couple of jabs, and then he threw a jab and just let that knee go and kind of ducked into it. Not totally ducked into it, but I think just the height and the length he has on the knee brought it right up. I mean, bad knockout. He was out.
Yeah.
So what a shot in the arm with Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns to UFC 288. This is a huge night for you. You have had a lot of big nights in your career, but you're right. You see a little anxiety creeping in for Raymond. Anybody see that on the DraftKings YouTube channel? I fucking saw it.
Anxiety doesn't have to creep in. It's here.
So let's talk about Matt Frivola first, and then we can get to Aljamain Sterling. But it seems in a lot of respects that Matt Frivola has been calling for this big fight for much of his UFC career, and now he has it 2 weeks away. What are your thoughts on the steamroll here against the previously ranked contender, Drew Dober?
Steamroll is looking really, really good. Really happy the way, what I saw yesterday, great sparring again. He's sparring like 3 times a week, which is, a lot for us. But I think he needs it for a guy like Drew Dober. Frivola, look, he's on a roll. He's got great wins under his belt. He's got great competition under his belt. He fought Sarukian on 24 hours notice, who's a future champion, most likely, probably, is going to fight for the title for sure. He beat Jalen Turner, who's just an absolute beast in that division now. So he's had competition, so he's ready to go. I think we'll see a really good steamroller that night. His head's in the right spot. And that's it, man. I don't know. I'm really excited for him. He's put in a great camp so far, and we got a week to go.
Well, you know how we feel about him, and he's a promoter's dream, not just in terms of the style, but the willingness, right, to fight a guy like Arman Sarukian, who was, I think, like minus 800 against him on 24 hours notice. So we'll see how it goes for your guy, Matt Frivola. So I was writing the description for this episode of the Anik and Florian podcast, and I think I wrote something like, and Ray Longo shares his insights on Aljamain Sterling now 2 weeks away. And then I was thinking, like, you know what, though?
No,
you're probably not getting much insightful from Ray on Aljo.
That should not be the thumbnail.
Yeah, no.
Look, what I love about Aljo? Like, he's been training his ass off too, but he came down just to watch the sparring yesterday. So he's always present in the gym. That's why I love having him back, and just great for the guys, and great source of information and knowledge. So we had a great day yesterday.
I have a few items I would like to get to with you on this UFC fight night if I could. We may circle back to Sergei Pavlovich, but we spent about a quarter of an hour on him. I wanted to get your thoughts on Bobby Green and Jared Gordon, but sounds like you want to talk about the Russian sickle, Sergei Pavlovich.
Yeah, I don't know what you say. I'm going to go 2 ways on this because I thought about this a little bit. Kenny, tell me if you agree with this. First off, the first way is, what the fuck was Blades doing? Like, that game plan was just insane. But if I'm his coach, I'm going to say this. He stood and threw with an absolute killer. This is where I'm going with Blades. I think Blades, if he's coached the right way, becomes a totally different fighter moving forward. Because he sent out a message, I'm going to fucking trade with you and I'll take you down. And all he's got to do now is just find the right medium between it. But he was landing. He wasn't just trading. He was doing pretty good. His lights didn't go completely out. It wasn't like it was that bad of a knockout, I don't think. But he stood in there with an animal, and I thought he was doing well. You didn't know what was going to happen in some of those flurries, you know what I mean? So all he had to do was change a couple of things, but I think he proved a point that he's not the wrestler anymore. He will stand and throw you in. I think, like, again, moving forward, with the right mentality, I bet you that guy becomes a problem. Yeah, I bet he becomes better from that.
I love what you said there because I was trying to articulate something similar to Kenny, I think, earlier, and I failed to do so. But where's your wrestling getting you, Curtis Blades, right? Yes, he's the most decorated offensive wrestler in the takedown column in UFC heavyweight history. And yes, he's made a lot of money headlining a lot of shows. I'm not sure if he has long-term financial freedom yet or not, but he hasn't fought for the belt. And the dude's got some hands on him, right? Yeah. I do think he can win a lot of these fights. So, Ken-Flo, this is a little bit of what I was getting at. Curtis Blades 2.0, baby. I'm in.
I'm telling you, listen, you got to remember, too, it is the entertainment business. And unfortunately, if you're just a wrestler and you don't do anything else, you're probably not going to get a lot of shine. You're not going to get a lot of push from the organization. So I think I'm saying this was a positive for him. I don't know why, but I like what I saw at the beginning of that fight. And all he has to do is now change a couple of things. And I think that guy's going to be the problem moving forward.
Yeah, it's funny, I don't know. I guess if I was to equate it to some silly, combat analogy, it's like if you see a force of guys down there and we got guns and you can drop a bomb, you can drop a bomb on them. It's not like we go, hey, let's go over there and John, if you get shot, then we'll drop the bomb on. But let's just see what happens. Yeah. If Ray and John get shot, then we'll drop the bomb. It's like if you can drop a bomb, just fucking drop the bomb on him, kill him, take him out. Why wouldn't you just take him down from the get-go? I mean, again, he did prove that point. He is getting better as a striker, but don't let your ego lead the way.
Right.
And I think
but I tell you, Kenny, it is the entertainment business, and they're not welcoming him taking him down.
It was a good fight.
That's the problem. They're not welcoming that. I don't believe that. So unfortunately, you sometimes have to run down the hill with a bomb and get into a fist fight. I mean, maybe, but you're right. Though, was it ego? Was it more? I don't know.
Prove a point. Yeah, I don't know.
But I think moving forward, he'll drop that bomb, and he'll drop a lot of bombs. He's got a couple of different bombs now he could drop. That's the good news.
Right.
I think anyway.
He's skillful, man.
Yeah,
he's skillful. He's talented.
Yeah, and those heavyweights, man. I mean, all you got to do is stay preserved, and you're going to be good to go. I think he's going to be. I really believe he's going to be a problem in the future now, more than I ever did before.
Yeah.
So, Kenny, when Bruce Buffer or Joe Martinez or the great Lupe Contreras introduces a combat sports athlete, a mixed martial artist, oftentimes they'll say, this man is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter, this man is a striker, this man is a thug jitsu fighter, this man is a look-see-do fighter. How were you introduced? Do you recall?
I think I was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai expert or something.
That's right.
Fighter.
He was an elbow expert fighter. A man that only throws elbows in his fights.
Well, he was never really thought of exclusively as a grappler despite all the stripes on his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, right? I mean, he made his name, sending guys to the hospital with his elbows 3 divisions higher than he probably should have been competing, right? So, I don't know. I just was curious about that. I also did a deep dive, and Gray Maynard, another guy like Curtis Blade, took Gray forever to get a championship opportunity in the UFC. I know he was dealing with maybe a deeper division and some variables at 55. Ken-Flo, that's the only time in your career that you lost as a betting favorite, by the way. You were slight favorite against Gray Maynard in Boston.
And in Boston.
Well, I'm not trying to rub it in. I'm just saying that, Ken-Flo is a pretty good bet as a betting favorite throughout his career. More often than not, if you bet Ken-Flo is chalk, he was getting that ticket to the win. All right. Bobby Green versus Jared. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was waiting for you.
What the fuck was that, Ray?
I thought you were going to circle to something else. I wanted to go back to Bobby Green.
You go wherever you want. I want to go back to Bobby Green. I can barely see it because you're in the dark. Oh, really?
There you go. Your head just shined it up a little bit.
We got to brighten it up.
Keep your head in there. It looks a lot shinier. There you go.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
He's very tan. He lives in South Florida.
Yeah, what is he doing? Out by the pool a lot?
We were in Orlando, Florida, celebrating my daughter's birthday. So
wow.
Nice.
Got a little too much sun this weekend. Forehead's peeling a little bit, but that's neither here nor there.
Disney?
No, we did not go to Disney World. No.
Really? Wow. No. I still love
just
Disney
a lot of
World
water
with the
slides.
kids.
A lot of water slides.
Holy crow.
I was happy to avoid the big theme parks this weekend and just sort of chill at the hotel. Got to play mini golf with my son, which was an unmitigated disaster, but it was a good weekend. But let's talk about Bobby Green and Jared Gordon. But I say this with all seriousness.
Yeah.
Anything you want to talk about during your 30-minute segment, you can take this conversation any which way you want. When I ask Chael Sonnen a question on TV, he never answers the question directly, right? He is taking that conversation wherever he damn well pleases, and that's why I always say Chael's one of one. Power to him. But Ray, you're the star of the show. You can take the conversation any which way you want. Sounds like you want to talk about Bobby Green and Jared Gordon.
That's exactly what I want to talk about.
All right, no contest, accidental clash of heads at 4:35 of round one. I got the chance to watch this late Sunday night. I have a lot of thoughts on it, but what were your thoughts on the anticlimactic end to this feature bout of 55?
Well, give me a direction. What were your thoughts on it? I mean, he definitely headbutted him.
I want your thoughts on it. Yes, it was a headbutt. I think it should have been a no contest.
Yeah, okay.
But no, well, I'll tell you this, I was on Jared Gordon's Instagram, and UFC featherweight contender Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell wrote, of Bobby Green. That shit was intentional. I don't care what no one says. I seen him aim his head. You're a real one, brother. All these tests God has given you, you are passing, and you refuse to break. That's going to make you so strong. So Bryce Mitchell is alleging that there was some intent with Bobby Green, who suggests that he was just throwing an elbow. Either way, it was an anticlimactic end to the fight. Disappointing for both men. What did you think of it?
Man, I like both guys. He did. I'll say this. I don't know if it was intentional, but when you headbutt a guy, you know you headbutted somebody. He acted like he was doing the elbow, like his head was before the elbow was coming later. Yeah. So, I mean, to not know that you headbutted somebody like that, that's a little weird to me. You know, I mean, you had to know your head hit something and your elbow didn't hit anything, right, Kenny? Would you agree with that? You would know if your elbow hit something or your head hit something?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so. You know, it's like you definitely know that it didn't hit your elbow, right? Sometimes that hard part, there's not a lot of feeling there, but the way that I saw it, he's leading with his head.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Like in boxing, if you throw a strike and you drop your head and you just put it in the right position, is it illegal? No. You're putting your head, but you are putting your head in a shady position, knowing that your opponent's face or chin is going to be there. So there's that gray area. You know, if the intention was there to use that head, you know, that's just a dirty move because, you know, obviously, you know, Jared Gordon got knocked out there.
Right,
I mean, he got hurt.
He got hurt there for sure.
There's some serious damage you can do with your head. There's a reason why headbutts are illegal now. And that was a nasty one. So the right call was made. That's the good thing. The good thing is, and I picked Bobby Green to win that fight, but I was so happy to see that they did the right thing and had that a no contest because that was a nasty, nasty headbutt.
Yeah, he definitely led with his head.
He did, yeah.
There wasn't, I don't know if it was, you know, I think Cruz was out of control. He thought it was a left hook or he was screaming for something. Then he kind of backtracked. I don't know. But it looked like he was trying that punch elbow, you know, that up elbow.
Exactly. That, like that, yeah.
Or he was either trying that or he was trying – he was after,
or is it trying to disguise the head?
After the fact, he was saying, you know, like – because his arm wasn't back. It was really out. But it looked like it was –
looked like a jab to me.
Yeah, right. He maybe wanted to do it, but his head hit first. I don't know. But
the thing is, what made it bad, Ray, was the fact that he kind of – it's one thing to drop your head. It's another thing to drop your head and lean forward like you're headbutting a soccer ball. It almost looked like that. So bending at the waist and then thrusting with your head – was just that's where it looked a little shady. I don't want to accuse Bobby Green of anything because I don't know what his intentions were. I don't know him as a person. He seems like a nice guy. So hopefully he wasn't trying to do that on purpose, but it looked funny with him lunging and leading with his head. It looked a little funny.
It looked a little funny, but again, John, you would be better at this than me, but I don't think he's had a history of any, you know, foul play. It wasn't like he was losing the fight. There would be, I don't know why he would do that. You know, it's not like it wasn't a desperation move. So I think he's got that stuff going for him. He could lean on his reputation. He seems like a great guy. I mean, I think he's a really nice guy. Jared Gordon, fantastic guy. Unfortunate, but it did look like he speared him with his head. You know, like, was it just something that happened and you weren't thinking about it? I was more concerned with the reaction after, because I say that if I hit somebody with my head, I don't care if it's the top of my head, I know my head hit something too. You know what I mean? There's always going to be one guy who gets it in the worse spot than the other guy. You know, you'll both be knocked out, but you got to feel that on top of your head. Even if you get punched on top of the head, you feel that. You know what I mean? That's totally just with a fist, not with another skull hitting you or a jawbone or whatever. But that was the part that was a little concerning, is that he kind of tried to no-sell the whole situation like it was a knockout for real. You know what I mean? So that got a little crazy. But everything before that, I think, there was no reason to lead me to believe it was intentional, but it didn't look good for Bobby Green. Let's say that.
I've probably collided heads with my son a couple dozen times already in the first 4 years of his life. And it's always like, oh, man, I mean, you know right away.
100%.
But yes, I think Bobby Green does deserve the benefit of the doubt. I think Jared Gordon and others are certainly going to give him that. And candidly, I probably wouldn't have even had it as a talking point had I not come across Bryce Mitchell's comment that he believes without a shadow of a doubt that this was intent by Bobby Green. But hopefully they run it back. I think the disappointing part for Jared Gordon is that he had knocked out cold, right? You're not trying to get your button turned off that many times in your life. And unfortunately, he had to wake up and ask what happened.
Yeah, and Jared Gordon, I mean, you're not going to find a better guy, to even deal with that, I don't think. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's upset, but he understands it, and he's just a good guy. I hope he's all right. That's really the bottom line. I hope he's all right, and it has absolutely no effect on his fighting ability moving forward.
Did you watch the boxing over the weekend, Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia?
I saw the highlights. I mean, I went from the UFC to Gonzalez, and I think I missed the boxing in there, but I saw the highlights. Vicious liver shot.
Wow. Did you see Bruno Silva over Brad Tavares in the UFC co-main event?
Great fight.
God, that guy, huh?
Yeah. I've been a big fan ever since he went 3 rounds duking it out with Pereira. You know what I mean? That guy hits like a mule. He's another guy. He's good. I like watching Bruno fight. Tough. He tightens up his ground game, and he's a force to be reckoned with too.
All right, the other thing I had for you, and then before we let you go, the floor is yours. The floor's not lava. The floor is yours. You can talk about anything you want on the way out. But one thing that I haven't done a whole lot of in my 15 or so years covering mixed martial arts is gym visits, right? I'll never forget going to Somerville, Massachusetts to visit Kenny Florian. And I'm thinking, dude, this kid fucking grew up in Dover, Sherman. He's fucking training at a place like that. No, I'm just kidding. So
what is he doing?
So I'm just kidding. So no, I just thought the fucking ceiling was low. I love Delagrati, one of my favorite people. So,
oh man.
So, but I was just in Dallas.
Don't take a shot at my buddy. Don't you dare do that.
No, I walked into Team City Yad Tong, and maybe I was expecting some palace, and it was it was hardcore.
I like that even better. I like that
100%. Right. So I haven't had a chance to visit all that many gyms over the years. And last week, Daniel Cormier and I were doing some business in Dallas, Texas, and we got to go to the pro practice at Fortis MMA on Monday night. And I'll lead this to Ray, and then Kenny, I don't know if you have anything on the back end. Yep. This was one of the greatest nights of my life. I could have sat there all night long. It made me want to just go watch pro practices all over South Florida if I would be extended that invitation. I don't know. But gosh, you can learn so much. And I guess the toughest part of me in my own head as I'm watching all of this was that most of this is not for broadcast, and I need to omit a lot of what I'm hearing and seeing from my broadcast potentially. But gosh, seeing 12 UFC fighters on the mat and talking to amateur fighters and just being a part of all of that, and seeing Sam Hughes 3 weeks after a win with ankle wrapped, back in the gym. It was just one of the greatest nights of my life. I enjoyed that more than most sporting events, live sporting events that I go to. So I don't know. I just want to share that with you guys.
Wait, are you saying you enjoyed that more than the night you came to my gym and we watched Bruce Buffer do curls? Is that what you're not saying that, are you?
I'm saying that.
Oh, really?
I'm saying that.
With all the announcing he was doing and introducing people, you're going with that. Fortis MMA.
It actually bothered me when Bruce was lifting weights. I thought it was just I'm glad you remember that positively, Ray. No, we had a great dinner, but we go back to Garden City, New York to Ray's gym, and Buff's trying to get it in, and it's killing my vibe. I'm trying to put something in the air. This guy's lifting weights, totally killed my.
They put a lot in the air that night, Kenny, if you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
You want us to go outside? No need to. Let's just blow the gym up in here.
So
it's always good for the parents when they walk in the next day. And,
yeah, exactly.
They know everybody. What's that? No, go ahead, John. Did I interrupt you? Sorry about that. You're back at Fortis MMA, and you're like a kid in a candy store.
Thanks to the General Safe Saud, all the athletes were just very welcoming. I could not believe, Kenny, how much I enjoyed being in that atmosphere. I'm not trying to be funny at all. I did not want to leave. Like, I wish that pro practice had gone on all night.
Yeah, no, it's awesome because it really does give you the background on not only the energy at the practice, but what these guys are preparing for. You know, we only see the fighter on fight night, and we just kind of see them appear and they fight, and that's it, they're gone. But we don't see all the work, all the sweat, all the blood, all the tears, all the heartache that they go through in practice. And, you know, again, you say this all the time. It's very cliche. It can be cheesy, but just to get into the UFC's octagon or to fight at the highest level in any promotion is a big deal. It's a huge achievement just to get there, and to see kind of all that work is pretty cool. And seeing that at a great gym like Fortis is awesome.
Yeah.
And just seeing how much Safe loves it, right? Like, at one point, he's like, dude, I just love this shit. You know, I mean, goes, takes care of his kids, whatever he needs to do, just absolutely loves practice. I just really enjoyed it. And I'm not going to name any names, but it was pretty funny. You know, somebody's walking up to Safe, UFC fighter, like, hey, can I? And he's like, yeah, I don't care what you do. You're fucking late, though, you know. And then somebody else came in and they were like, oh, man, it's sparring day. I thought it was Monday. It's Tuesday. I love sparring day, you know, or whatever it was. I think we were there Tuesday night. I apologize. He's like, oh, I thought it was Monday. And he's like, yeah, well, you're still fucking late, you know. And other guys, he's like, dude, you're fucking fat. Like, your fight's in 4 weeks. You're fucking fat, you know. But I was glad I didn't have to train or take my shirt off. All right, Ray. Anything else? Anything else before we let you go?
I don't know. You're not really giving Fortis a big plug when people are walking in and don't even know what day it is. Well, what are we saying about the gym? You're telling me does he have fighters that don't know what day it is?
Bunch of slackers.
Yeah, right.
At Fortis MMA. That's the summary from John Anik. Right. Bunch of slackers at Fortis MMA.
You got a fat guy and a guy that doesn't know what day of the week it is. I mean, what are we talking about?
Well, I didn't name any names with the negative stuff. You want me to start talking positively about all these fighters? Kyle Crutchmer, who I really like, working his ass off down there, as was Alex Morono. Austin Lingo pissed about a recent loss, getting the fuck after it. I mentioned Sam Hughes, Macy Chasson. Diego Fajeda is a fucking beast getting ready for Michael Johnson. MJ better look out, you know? What else you need, Ray?
John's got a computer up here, Ray. He's got a computer.
Let me tell you, he came back swinging, Kenny.
He did.
Holy crow. How dare you
talk
about that fat guy and the guy that doesn't know what day of the week it is? Kid me, Austin Lingo's there. You bastard.
Right. No. He's like, dude, you're fat. I'm turning around. I'm like, you talking about me, bro?
When are you coming back to the gym?
To your gym?
Yeah, you would have had a nice time yesterday. The sparring was
I can tell you, I am going to be coming to New York on the back end of UFC 288. So after the Newark show, I'm going to be in New York.
All right, we're doing it again.
Buffer coming or no?
What was that?
Is Buffer coming or no?
Buffy, 100%. Bruce is always welcome. But
okay. I'll get back to you, but RSVP's in the mail.
You know, I put a sign.
Hide the weights over there.
I put a sign on the octagon door now. It says, you don't have to be crazy to enter, but it sure helps. And that's good. That sums up my gym. A bunch of nuts we're dealing with.
Hey, much love. Go have some more cold brew. We'll talk to you next week, okay?
Salud.
See you, Ray.
You're the best. Raymond Peter Longo every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. I love our decompression phone calls later in the week. He'll call and be like, hey, I'm just messing with you, all right? And I'm just messing with you, motherfucker. Now go brush your teeth. All right. Thanks to Ray Longo for joining us every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. Don't forget, clips of the show can be accessed still on the Anik and Florian podcast YouTube channel, but all full-length videos are on the DraftKings YouTube channel. So thank you in advance for subscribing to that channel. On the audio front, nothing changes. So continue to ingest those as you so please. All right. We have another UFC fight night coming up this weekend, and it just so happens to feature a guy in Ricky Simone who might just be my favorite fighter on the roster. To that end, let us get to the main event challenge.
It's the main event challenge. Anik.
The time is most definitely now.
Florian.
I finish fights. I'm going to do everything possible to win.
The main event challenge. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
And for that very initiative, we call on Big Gun Billy Petrie. What's up, Billy Kid?
Hey! What's up, boys?
I love the Reds jersey. Is that just a generic or is there a player on the back?
Oh, come on, bro. This is Sabo, baby. Chris Sabo with the goggles. 90s hero, bub, of course. Yeah, no generic here, bub.
I mean, that's amazing. Chris Sabo's amazing. I mean, that's better than Barry Larkin or anybody else that popped into my head.
Sabo's the best, the king.
At Brian Petrie MMA is the handle on social. I can't start calling you Billy Petrie until you're fully embedded in this space. So, once you get the 6-figure contract from one of these outfits, then we can start dicking around with the Billy Petrie.
Absolutely.
My wife getting on me this weekend for using the word dick too much.
Huh. Okay.
She says that I need to start calling it penis. I don't know what's worse.
I think wiener's the
penis
worst.
Is worse.
Yeah, don't say wiener or penis. Just say dick. Yeah.
I was said to my son, dude, can you please stop touching your dick, bro? Please. All right, let's update.
That's a lifelong struggle, John.
I'm telling you.
That's true. Yeah. It could be a while.
So, Bri, before I update the standings here, I believe it was a pretty lucrative weekend for you in the sportsbook overall. So, did you care to share for us some of your highlights?
Yeah, I hit Brady Highstand at plus 370 live. That third round stoppage was crazy, but I got him live, a nice little shekel there. I hit Sergei Pavlovich knockout. I should have done round 1, but I didn't. I hit my parlay as well. My big parlay give out was plus 260. Lucindo. We got Bruno Silva in there, Montel Jackson, who I'm hugely high on. Plus 260 number. Yeah. So that was a nice little hit there. And then Selensberger was the only blemish, but we're up about 4.32 units on the weekend. Hit Gervonta Davis by knockout as well, because I figured that was going to happen as well. Watch the boxing match. Ken-Flo.
Brian, I wanted to ask you, because I think we were on the same page with this when we were talking on our chat, but you had a problem with the Semelsberger decision as well. Am I right? Because I kind of did as well, man. I didn't go back and watch it a second time, but I thought I wouldn't say he got screwed, but I thought he was going to get the nod.
So I got chirped a little bit on Twitter because everyone's like, oh, you're just mad you lost your bet. Yes, that is right. But I rewatched it and I took everything aside. The money's gone. Who cares, right? I don't know how you're a judge, right? And I'm not even saying he won the fight. My biggest beef is I don't know how you're a judge and you give all 2 of the 3 judges gave Jeremiah Wells round 1. Jeremiah Wells, who's a dog, by the way, was knocked unconscious in round 1 and woke up. Right. And then he got on top and did some work. That's fine. Sulzberger should be a little more anxious, but he was out like multiple times in that round.
Yeah, if we're talking about damage and effectiveness
what
of striking.
Else more damage do you want, right? Crazy to me that 2 of the 3 gave him that first round. He rebounded well. The second round, he got flatlined a little in the second round too. I still think he was recovering from the first round. Third round, he looked great, right? 29-28 is how I had it. I was just very upset that 2 judges had a 30-27 when damage is what we're scoring. And admittedly, I'm not the best judge. Obviously, I am a capper. I'm a gambler, so I do get emotional with some things, but I still don't know how you give that first round to Jeremiah Wells.
Yeah. All right, I am looking at these scorecards right now. Eric Colon, Junichiro Camijo, and Rick Winter. And it looked as though Rick Winter gave Semelsberger round 1. The other 2 did not. So I did not get a chance to watch that fight. Regrettably, I was way over the weekend. Dude, Montel Jackson, though, what a frame for 35. Yeah. What a beast. There have been some weird circumstances at time in his UFC career, but now you start to look at the wins list, some of the guys that he's beaten.
Yeah.
Hard to get a number next to your name at 35, but tell us why you're so high on Montel the Kid Jackson.
He's, the fight IQ is coming along. There was the fight with JP Bays where he hurt JP Bays about 6 times in that fight. And I'm like, you got to finish. You got to finish this guy. You're that good. He's monstrous, right? For the division. He's got bigger hands than Francis Ngannou, rumoredly, right? He's got huge mitts. And so he goes out there against Ron Yaya, who wants to get in these weird scrambles on the ground, trick you to getting on top. He's that good. He's really hard to finish, really. Yaya, he sticks around. He's obviously not the most skilled guy in the feet, but Montel closed the show, did what he was supposed to do, fought smart, fight IQ's coming up, want to see him be active a little bit more. He's been in there with some really good guys. He's been around for a little bit, too. He's got a nice little name, and now I'm starting to build here. Let's start building. I think he's super talented.
All right, and before we transition to UFC Fight Night, Song versus Simone, just give me 30 seconds on the Russian Sergei Pavlovich, bro, because we have these private chats, right? And at least you're there with me speaking in superlatives and making all of these great leaps that probably won't come to fruition. But, dude, How do you handicap his chances as you spin it forward now for him against Jones, Stipe, or anybody else?
So Stipe, I think he wins. I think Stipe is a little bit long in the tooth, and I don't think Stipe is going to have the wrestling chops to get him down. Even though he is a good wrestler, Stipe is going to want to box them. Who's boxing with this guy? No one is. I mean, look at the reach. He took 2 clean right hands from Curtis Blades. Clean right hands, ate him like nothing, and marched forward. The one takedown attempt Blades did have was after he was hurt, but his hips looked good. They were in the right position. Sergei Pavlovich looked like he was ready for that. And this is my favorite performance of his, favorite knockout, because he's going against a guy who can rally, who's been in there with the top, but he stayed composed, stayed patient. Every time he hit Blades, when Blades was kind of freaking out, kind of moving his head, going everywhere, the shot selection, was perfect. This guy's a problem, and he's young too. I mean, God, good luck. Scary dude for the heavyweight division. Scary dude. Yeah. Good luck, heavyweights. Good fucking luck, man.
And seems to have some personality as well that transcends the language barrier a little bit. So we'll see how it goes for Sergei Pavlovich, but congratulations to the big man on steel in the weekend. All right, let us update the standings before we make our selections this week. So Petrie minus 28.55 going in. Ken-Flo was minus 570. Petrie goes 1-2 for a minus 135. Ken-Flo goes 2-1. Big hit on Pavlovich plus 145. Plus 180 on the week for Ken-Flo. Shaves his nut to minus 390. Petrie minus 29.90. And maybe a 5-unit jobber for Brian Petrie coming down the pike this week. Maybe not. You'll just have to listen to the main event challenge to that end. First fight for us at bantamweight. And this is an early prelim, but just wanted to give this fight a little shine because I'm curious to see which side you guys fall on. 15-time UFC veteran Brian Kelleher, minus 180. Journey Newson, plus 155. So Petrie, Kelleher has never won more than 2 straight in the UFC. He's never lost more than 2 in a row in the big show. He went 1-2 last year. The last 2 losses, though, both by first-round rear naked choke. Your thoughts on Kelleher here against Journey Newson?
That little pause before you said Petrie, I swear a Billy was coming down the pipe right there. I thought a Billy was coming. I love it. I don't care. I told my mom that. She goes, what? She's like, I knew a Billy growing up. He was a hillbilly. I'm like, Mom, don't worry about it. It's okay. Listen, Boone Kelleher, I like Boone Kelleher. He had a nice little run during COVID, right? Popping up to 45, getting fights, just staying active, which I like about him. You know, he's 35, 36 years old right now. The keys are the victory here are easy. Journey Newsom's got some pop in his hands, but he got taken down 6 times by Sergei Morozov. That's the key here. Kelleher is a good boxer, but he needs to mix it up really well. He's got a good guillotine when someone shoots on him. I would like to see him take down Journey here. Journey try to work to his feet, and he jumps a gilly there because it's a really good choke he's got there. I think he's better everywhere. Speed and grappling. I like Kelleher here. This could be an extra unit play for your boy. Not going to touch it because Journey Newsom does have some bombs in his hands, but I think Kelleher should get a finish. If he's motivated, he goes out there and gets a finish and mixes everything up, but I like Kelleher here. Yeah.
Brian Kelleher minus 180. Journey Newson, you mentioned the December loss to Sergei Morozov. Somewhat of a mixed bag for Journey Newson, who's fought 5 times in the UFC. Ken-Flo, your thoughts on him here against Brian Boom Kelleher?
Yeah, and Newson has been a little inconsistent, right? He is a very good striker, needs to be respected there, absolutely capable of winning this fight if they stay on the feet. But I think Kelleher can hang with him on the feet. But again, the path to victory is very simple here. Take him down, put him on his back, look to control him, set up a submission. I like Kelleher. I think he's got more ways to win.
And a reminder, you guys do not have to pick every fight. The only one you have to pick is the main event. You can abstain on one. Marcos Rogerio de Lima in the heavyweight division, a minus 150 favorite here against Waldo Cortez Acosta, who is plus 130. They call him Salsa Boy out of the Dominican Republic, fights out of Phoenix, Arizona, fought twice in a span of 4 weeks in the UFC last autumn. And that sort of gave him some traction with fans, made the quick turn, was successful in doing so, won both fights by unanimous decision. And now, Bri, he draws the UFC-tested pays out. Which way you going here with the big boys?
De Lima's got sledgehammer, bro. Sledgy's in those hands. I mean, he made Ben Rothwell do the chicken dance. That's not hard to do. The big thing with him, though, is his cardio's really lacked in previous fights. I feel like he's cleaned that up. He's 37, which we all know is 23 in the heavyweight division. It's a good number. And he's cleaning up a little bit, you know, and he does have some ground game here. I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to take Costa down. Acosta, this dude it was a former pitcher, I believe, and he throws his right hand like a pitcher. I mean, it's just all power, but he's athletic. He moves really well. I like what I see in him. I do really like what I see in him. He's confident. Want to step on the gas a little more, want to have a little bit more volume. I think when he fights DeLima here, I think that's what's going to be. You got to be careful because DeLima's got those sledgies, but you throw a little bit more volume in there. You put some pieces on him. You're more athletic. You move. Don't move straight back. Move side to side. I like Costa here as an underdog play. Let me get the big boy here at the dog shot.
All right. Cortez Acosta plus 130 for Brian Petrie. Ken-Flo, you and I called a handful of Pezau's early UFC appearances, 15 of them now for Marcos Rogerio de Lima between a couple divisions. UFC career dates to 2014. 9 UFC wins, not too bad. 3 off of Ken-Flo's 12 if you're keeping score at home. And he submitted Andrei Arlovsky his last time out. Your thoughts on Pezau here, slightly favored against Waldo Cortez Acosta?
These are always tough. These heavyweights that, a lot of times will just fight any strategy out there and just start throwing down. So I totally see why Brian is going with Cortez Acosta. I could see him winning this fight. And there's times where I look at Rogerio de Lima and I'm like, man, he looks fantastic. And other times, even within the fight, where I'm like, what is he doing? Why is he taking this approach? And he does, he can't have a tendency of getting tired. But I don't know. I think I've seen a better output from him. I've seen better performances. There's a little bit better as far as like his skills are improving a little bit. So I'm going to go with Pezau. I like Rogerio de Lima here, but not a strong conviction.
All right, 3 picks to go, gentlemen. We get to a featured bout of middleweight Rodolfo Vieira, minus 275, against Cody Brundage, who comes back plus 230. Brundage out of Factory X, making his 5th UFC start. Got knocked out by Michal Oleksiejczuk last time out. On the other side, you guys know Vieira, known quantity, world-class jiu-jitsu player, 3-2 in the UFC thus far. BP, who do you have here at $185?
So on my podcast, I do this soundbite. It's from Sling Blade when the lawnmower doesn't work. He goes, "Ain't no gas in it." These fighters, this is an ain't no gas in a fight. Both these guys fade, right? Cody Brundage comes out, does like with 3 takedowns over Oleksiejczuk, gasses, gets finished, right? Before that, we all had the ticket of him knocking out Tristan Gore. We all were carrying that ticket in our back pocket. And before that, the Lugulabula fight, he was getting smoked and came back and won. Kenny loves how I pronounce that name. He just laughed right in my face on that one. But Rodolfo Vieira, he fought Chris Curtis. He looked good. He got embarrassed a little bit by the Fluffy Hernandez, had him down, have everything, but he looked like he muscled everything, gassed out. Fluffy's legit, dude. Rebounded with Dustin Stolfoots, got a submission, but then fought Chris Curtis where he went for way too many takedowns, but he landed 88 strikes. He looked good. Cardio, went the full 3 rounds, took some shots of Chris. Cody, that's all he wants to do is take you down. I don't know in a world why he would want to take Vieira down here. And I think if Vieira could stand with Chris and not get put out, I don't think Cody's going to have that. Plus the gas tank issue. I like that he's training with Dustin Jacoby. I like that he's in Factory X over there in Colorado. Cardio should be good, but I like Vieira here. I think the only way to touch this fight, well, I know we're picking money line, so give me Vieira, but I think Vieira by sub or Cody by decision are what you're going to look at when you go to the window. But give me Vieira.
Our audio engineer, Will Berger's probably salivating when he heard you pronounce Lungi Ambula. Would you like to give that another go? Our producer, Cody Mero, would like you to. No, okay.
Okay. Dolce?
He tapped out.
Hold on. I'll do it.
Okay, there you go.
Dolce Lungulabula. I mean, that's about as good as it gets right there, boys.
Julia Gulia?
Yeah.
Ken-Flo, Kenny, you are going to lead us on the main event. For now, though, Rodolfo Vieira, minus 275. Cody Brundage, plus 230. Which way you go?
Yeah, I think Brian has it right here. I'm going with Rodolfo Vieira as well. The problem has been that transition of coming from sport jiu-jitsu over to mixed martial arts. Rodolfo Vieira has, legendary statistics and championships coming from jiu-jitsu. The problem is sometimes his style hasn't transitioned well to mixed martial arts. Also, his ability to go from striking into the takedown, of putting it all together, it's choppy. Maybe it's better this time around. I expect it to be, but he's still very susceptible on the feet. And I think he's got a good dance partner here, though. Cody does a lot of his best work on the ground. Rodolfo Vieira, I think, will be a little bit sharper and way more dangerous there. So I'm going to go with Vieira as well.
All right, that brings us to the co-main event. Get out your pronunciation guides, folks. Caio Borralho, minus 300 versus Michal Oleksiejczuk, plus 250. And Oleksiejczuk on paper, very challenging to pronounce, but at this stage of his UFC career, as he makes his 11th UFC appearance, I probably said his name, including this podcast, upwards of 200 times. And he seemingly, as a fighter, has found his traction here at 20 years of age, Bri. 4-1 combined in 2021 and 2022. On the other side, though, Borralho, a lot of people see great things in his future, right? 3-1 favorite, sponsored by Howlerhead, 3-0 in the UFC. He's won 10 in a row, 12-0 with a no contest spanning his last 13. What do you have for us on Caio Borralho and Michal Oleksiejczuk?
Yeah, this is a fight where I would I hate the line placement, right? I think Oleksiejczuk deserves a little more respect here. I think his, 205, he had no business being at 205. Logistically, this guy could be 170 if we're really putting our eggs in the basket here. Not a big dude, but big power. Doesn't matter. He'll knock dudes out of 205. Doesn't matter. Problem is his grappling, right? His grappling has gotten him some issues. Like Cody, his last time out, Cody Brundage took him down 3 times. He got up all 3 times and knocked him out. I don't know if that's going to be the case here with Borralho. The Brazilian names get me every time. Either way, the fight nerd, the guy who claims himself fight nerd with a throat tattoo and a good looking dude, the fight nerd here, he doesn't throw a lot of volume. He gets you down. He keeps you down. He's not really in a place in his MMA career yet where he finishes a lot of people. Oleksiejczuk, I think, as much as I want to take the dog shot, I think he's going to have trouble with the grappling. He's got some great body shots. I know Chris Curtis has called out 2 people his entire UFC career. It's Michelle Oleksiejczuk and Drexus du Plessis. So hopefully Oleksiejczuk can fight Chris Curtis, because that is an amazing fight, because they both will stand up and bang. But I'm going to take the fight nerd Borralho here. I'm not going to pronounce it again. Not going to do it again. But give me that. I hate it. I hate taking it, but I got to take it.
And just put this in your back pocket. If you see 2 R's together in a Brazilian name that's pronounced with Brazilian Portuguese, the 2 R's become an H. Borralho, right?
I tell you, I have a hard time spelling Brazilian names too. There's so many I's where I don't think they need to be. I don't know. I'm a mess all around the place.
And I did notice you dropped a Dracus du Plessis in there. Ken-Flo, how about all these fight announcements coming down the pike? Robert Whittaker, Dracus du Plessis at UFC 290, right? Unbelievable.
Nuts.
Ken-Flo, Caio Borralho is minus 300. Oleksiejczuk about plus 250 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Your thoughts?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brian, I love how musical you get when you say a Brazilian name.
I have to sing it. Yeah, I got to sing
it. Yeah, it's great. I love it. So I like Borralho here. I think that his ability to put it all together, talk about a contrast between him and Rodolfo Vieira, does not have the pedigree and accomplishments that Rodolfo Vieira has coming from the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But, man, he knows how to put it together, and he's a smart competitor. He knows what he needs to do to win rounds for the most part, and I think he'll find a way to utilize his striking. His striking is good enough to be a threat to at least set up those takedowns properly, enter safely, and put Oleksiejczuk, is that how you're saying it? Oleksiejczuk on the mat and control him and maybe even take him out. Not necessarily known. He's more known for his control than he is for his submissions, but against Oleksiejczuk, I do think he has the skills to submit him. Now, the Polish Oleksiejczuk is very dangerous on the feet, man. I love his striking. He knows how to slip and rip and attack the body. So you got to watch out for those punches and bunches. But I like Borralho here. I trust in his tactics and his strategy, so much so that I want to put 3 units. Count them. 3. 1, 2, 3 on Borralho. Let's go.
So that is a $900 wager, 900 American dollars on Caio Borralho, who was previously featured on the Pronunciation of the Week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. We haven't gone to that segment a whole lot because, well, for one, our producer's pretty good with the names, and secondly, there just have not been a whole lot of challenging names over the last 4 or 5 shows, but we do have the Borralho file, so let's let Petrie hear Caio, if you'd be so kind, Cody.
Caio Borralho. Caio The Natural Borralho.
It's a pretty cool fight name. All right, main event, Rick, minus 130. Song Yadong, plus 110. Song is ranked 8. Simone is 10. Kenny, you made a prediction on this fight last week. It was elevated now to a 5-round main event. I'm not sure if that changes anything, but most people have said Ricky Simón has a great style for 25 minutes. Your thoughts on Simón, slightly favored here in the now main event against China's Song Yadong?
Yeah, and I believe I picked Simón, right? And the last one. I've been thinking about this fight a lot, and I'm definitely not as confident in Ricky Simón here in this fight. I do think he does have a good style for 25 minutes. He's a goer, man. He's got an excellent gas tank. I think he's going to push the pace against Song Yadong, and I do think he's got the style to present a lot of problems for Yadong. But, Yadong's a beast, man. I mean, his striking, I think, is very underrated. He's very good. He's been really working hard on his takedown defense. I do think that's where he's going to be most susceptible in this fight. I think Ricky will be able to push the pace. But as I thought more and more about this fight, I do think Song Yadong is a very interesting underdog bet. Am I going to go that way? No. I do like Ricky Simón here. I think his grappling, he's going to have to lean on his grappling big time. He's going to have to be very careful on the feet, especially in the boxing range. But I think Ricky can get it done here. So this would be a big win for him. I think very highly of Song Yadong's skills. But let's go Ricky Simón. I'm going to stick with it.
All right, Ricky Simón, minus 130 on DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm just trying to get the most up-to-the-minute betting line for you right now. Simón down to minus 125. Song Yadong plus 105. That is the line we will go with. So the price getting a little bit shorter for Ken-Flo there. Brian Petrie, close it out.
Yes.
Who do you like in the main event?
Well, this rarely happens. There's a fighter's name I can pronounce. Song Yadong crushed it. And then Kenny and I disagree. I the week longer, and now that it's 5 rounds, I'm all in on Ricky Simón. This guy, all he's done his last 4 fights, 3 of the 4 he's finished. And they're studs that he's finishing. He's putting punches together. He's mixing everything up. This guy debuted against Marab, right? And had that weird win, but still was a close fight until the end. Debuted against him. I mean, that's nuts. This guy, one really bad loss with Faber. I know Rob Font's a stud, so that's not a bad loss. But this guy he's got it. I love everything. I think him and his team were high-fiving because they got a little bit extra money, I'm imagining, and now it's 5 rounds. They're like, fuck yeah, we're 5-round fighters. I love this kid. And, again, Song Yadong's great. I don't want to not disrespect him by not talking about him. He's great. Look good against Sandhagen. Takedown offense was on point against Sandhagen. But I think Simon's just a different beast. And for 5 rounds, I really hope he doesn't get too hand happy like what we saw Curtis Blades. Like, hey, I can strike with anybody. Let me not know. I think he's going to know how good he is. I mean, the Jack Shore was just a chef's kiss. Take him down, submit him. That's a beautiful performance. So not only am I taking Ricky Simón, I'm more confident. I'm disagreeing with Ken-Flo, even though he is on the Simón side. I'm going to go ahead and nuts on the table. 5 unis. Johnny called it. I went 1 or 2 unis last week. Let's go 5. Fuck it. Let's go. And that's a real life bet too. People think that I bet all the picks in real life. So they'll tweet me like, man, you're way off on that. You're probably broke. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't really bet that in the show. This is going to be a 5-unit bet for me after this last weekend I had.
Nice,
I'm not confident in Ricky Simón.
I love it. And there probably should be some sort of disclaimer that I write just concisely at the beginning of the main event challenge, just so people understand exactly what we are doing here. But yes, chips all in. Brian Petrie is on Ricky Simón, minus 125, 5 units this weekend in the main event against Song Yadong. If you want more from Brian Petrie and you want to hear about sledgies and gillies and everything else, MMA Takes Podcast, get it in your life and on social media at Brian Petrie MMA. Brother, we will talk to you next week. It is a pay-per-view. We know you will have done your homework. We'll see you for 288, brother. Thank you, man.
I'll see you, boys.
There he is. Brian Petrie with us for the main event challenge here on the Anik and Florian podcast presented by DraftKings. So I don't know if Sergei Pavlovich is from Moscow, but Cody has suggested maybe the Moscow Mule as a nickname.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if a Moscow Mule exists in mixed martial arts right now, but if indeed there's a tie to that area, that's a great nickname for Sergei Pavlovich. All right, if you want more on the show, check out AnikFlorianPodcast.com. Merchandise can be had there. Also, Millions.co for the One More Sleep merchandise specifically. KennyFlorianMartialArts.com to find out everything that Ken-Flo's got going on in the jiu-jitsu world. And also, don't forget, live every Thursday on the Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel. Remember the Show with Bilal Muhammad and Jason Anik. Thank you all for indulging us today. Might be back with some bonus content later in the week. Otherwise, all hands on deck for the full preview of UFC 288 coming up next weekend. Also, don't forget our Anik and Florian Rewind on UFC Fight Pass. 2 fights that we look back at recently. Aljamain Sterling's win over Corey Sandhagen and Henry Cejudo's win over Dominic Cruz. Perhaps you want to eat that content up in advance of the fight between Aljo and Cejudo coming up on May 6th. Thank you to our guests, Ray Longo and Brian Petrie. Our executive producer is Cody Merrow. For Ken-Flo, I'm John Anik, thanking you and everybody else for listening and watching. Tell your friends, and we'll talk to you in less than a week. Until then, yo lit.